Lee Wenham had no criminal record. Terry Millman was a career armed robber who'd spent years in prison. At Aylesford, he was already suffering from cancer and was to die 9 months later, not long after the Dome raid. You knew Terry Millman. Tell me about Terry Millman.
Terry was a character. I liked Terry, a very good friend of me and friends. He was away and he was doing 12 years at the time. And
how long did you know him?
Very well.
How long?
Terry, going back now 30 years. 30 years.
And what was he like?
Nice man. I like Terry, character. You know, typical South London boy. Game.
And still at it.
He's 60, yeah, it's surprising. Yeah. Surprising. Yeah. I was surprised at that.
I was surprised. When his name cropped up, I thought, so, what's he at? He's still at it at his age, you know. Yeah. There you are.
Identifying Terry Millman was crucial. Intelligence linked him to other London robbers. In particular, 2 villains from the Elephant and Castle, Bill Cockram and Ray Betson.
Billy Cockram and Raymond Betson, I know, go back a number of years together. They are linked. You know, you see one, you almost see the other.
Over 25 years, Ray Betson's record is as a burglar, thief and fence. He has no previous conviction for violence, though police maintain he's got away with plenty.
Raymond Betson's a professional criminal. He lives and finances his life through armed robbery. He is a man that even other criminals are frightened of, and certainly people I've spoken to walk in fear of the name Raymond Betson.
According to police, Bill Cockram's 30-year-long record of shoplifting, fencing and burglary is also only part of the truth.
Cockram is a man who's been of interest for the flying squad an equal amount of time as Betson. I believe he's been involved in armed robbery. We're talking here about a gang whose proudest boast was they were never ever going to get caught.
The police did nothing that might arouse their suspicion, but they kept watch on the Wenham's farms and on Lee Wenham. Still, they had no idea what the gang planned next. Then, on August the 25th, Lee Wenham was seen visiting the Dome, where he showed great interest in one of the displays.
Prospectors, diamond prospectors, searching and sifting the soil, coaxing the earth to give up its secret. A secret which has driven some men to death and others to riches. Men who have spent a lifetime living like paupers, looking for that sparkling passport to luxury. Some will find the elusive stones, and few of the old-time diggers can escape the fever. They search, they find, they spend, and they start searching again.
The Millennium Star was the most extraordinary diamond in the rough. It wasn't a round stone, it was a slab of diamond. And it just, with the skills of the cutters and the polishers, it produced probably the most beautiful diamond I'd ever seen. Unbelievably symmetrical, full of fire. This is a unique stone. And it obviously went together with a collection of blue diamonds, which in their own way were as special and as dramatic as the Millennium Star.
A week after Lee Wenham's visit, Terry Millman's London friends Ray Betson and Bill Cockram also went to the Dome.
To me, the turning point was the 1st of September, because on that occasion we had Raymond Betson and Billy Cockram actually visiting the Dome, walking around, paying a lot of attention to the jewels.
And what did you think when you realised they were going for these fantastically valuable diamonds?
Well, it was absolutely incredible. I mean, it's almost too incredible to believe that they could pull it off.
The two also checked a getaway route across the river, which they videoed, while police videoed them. As a target, £200 million worth of diamonds would be a long way up from security vans. They went for it. They drove to a nearby shopping centre to explain the plan to another gang member, Aldo Cherokee. organisation was to be the job of Ray Betson, quiet, intelligent, charismatic. His old friend Bill Cockram would crack through the Diamond's security screen with an industrial nail gun. Aldo Cherokee was a one-time boyfriend of Cockram's daughter. He would handle radios and scanners. The veteran Terry Millman would drive the getaway van.
Police and thieves in the street.
Now they needed other specialists, someone handy with a sledgehammer and a driver for the speedboat.
Police and thieves in the street.
We talk about these people as a gang. Is it a gang that would move from job to job to job, the same people?
I think you'll find there's probably a core of 2 or 3, and the rest would be mix and match. You bring people in for various jobs, but the mix and match would be people whose provenance is trusted, where they won't be strangers. There'll be people who are known to other people within the organisation as such. So they take people in for various tasks. You want somebody who can drive, you want a bit of muscle, you maybe want a couple of psychopaths. You want people for specific
Just a couple
tasks.
of psychopaths.
You don't want too many of them, but having 1 or 2 on the firm, you know, is no bad thing.
Is the diamond a thing of evil or beauty?
Diamonds have always had a special sparkle for robbers.
Looking for something a little cheaper, maybe? Well,
But they're not easily disposable, and a world-famous diamond would raise problems of its own.
5,000 or so. What about this Bird of Paradise set? A masterpiece of diamond craftsmanship.
Where would you go with it? Who would want to touch it? Who would want to cut that? It's a one-off diamond. The obvious place would be go down a garden with it, you know, but who in the garden would touch it?
Hatton Garden.
Yeah, I mean, nobody would touch it.
Had they perhaps got some extremely rich buyer
For what?
lined up
I mean,
who would just want to
what
have
would
it?
they
I mean,
do?
that's all film stuff. When,
This-
when
yeah.
you see, like, a Mr. Big goes down to
Yeah.
his vault in the basement and
Yeah, and that's
gets
looking at
out all
puts it
this
away, yeah, it's
Rembrandts
really-
and
yeah.
gets there and probably, you know,
Don't
has
look at
a,
now and again.
You're going to shatter my illusions now, aren't you?
well, of course, that's exactly rubbish, you know.
It's like if you stole the Mona Lisa, that might be worth 200 million. No one's going to give you 25 quid for it, because what can you do with it? So what they would get would be a fraction of what the true value was, absolute fraction.
There'd be risks too in holding the diamonds to ransom. The gang couldn't rely on a payout from the insurers.
Too many people's involved here. Some of that had to be nicked. Some of that had to get nicked here.
I've known that happen with famous paintings over the years, when people have had really, I mean, paintings from different museums and stuff like that, and that they always get arrested, they always get nicked at the end of the day. I don't know any successful exchange has gone on with a very valuable painting, then the insurance money has been collected afterwards without people getting arrested. This always turns out that way.
Police decided to do nothing to prevent the raid on the dome. The stage was set for a public success for the flying squad. It needed one. Over 25 years, the reputation of the squad had taken a hammering with a succession of highly publicised corruption cases. Temptation was an occupational hazard for detectives who depended on contact with villains, and some even grew to call them love.
The flying squad is different to the flying squad we know now. The rules ain't changed, but they're just, you know, it was the old fighter came in, oh son, you know, love. What was
There was a very
love?
thin line between the robber and the flying squad, you know,
Yeah.
because you used to find yourself socialising with them and not knowing it. They would be in the other bar and they see you and they'd send a drink over.
Once the flying squad knew the target, the Dome's new chairman, David James, had to be let in on the secret.
We became David James's worst nightmare. I mean, all he faced, having taken on the Dome, it was in the news every day. To hear this, I mean, he was totally incredulous.
I was not exactly happy to hear it, because I've got quite enough on my plate without having to form a view as to what we should do about the planned robbery of the century. We didn't need that on top of everything else. So it was not good news. My first instinct was to tell them that we couldn't possibly have anything to do with it, and that surely this was something which we in some way should find a way of stopping.
What's the good in being intelligence-led and having intelligence if you say, well, I don't like the look of this is a little too risky for me, so I think we ought to frustrate this in some way? Because what would happen then is, well, okay, you frustrate that one, they then go and commit another offence when you're not there, just so some senior police officer somewhere can have some warm, glowy feeling and saying, well, at least I didn't know about it.
I referred this on to the civil servants of Whitehall, to the Department of Culture and to the Cabinet Office to tell them what had happened under very strict confidentiality and ask their guidance.
Were you looking for political cover in case it all went wrong?
I don't think I'd call it necessarily political cover. I was just looking for the cover of common sense as to what we should do about it.
When you spoke to the Cabinet Office and others, what did they tell you?
I understood some few days later from the DCMS that they had consulted with the Home Office and that they'd been told that the proper course of action should be to assist the police as far as possible, but obviously recognising that the ultimate responsibility for safety rested on me as a counting officer.
Planning by the gang was stepped up. At the end of September, Terry Millman bought a speedboat for cash in Whitstable.
You know the receipt was made out to Mr. T. Diamond.
Well, that's a sense of humour. That's Terry's character there coming out. He had a very good sense of humour. Very jovial man, wasn't he, Fred? Yeah. I always remember him being a jovial. Always laughing and mucking about. That was Terry. That was Millman.
That was Two Fingers, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I like to think of it. Yeah, I like to think of it because that was Terry.
Surveillance soon picked up the speedboat where the JCB had been, tucked away on the Wenham's farms. By now, the police in Kent and London were on high alert. Detectives were expecting a raid any day. Intelligence kept suggesting dates when it would happen, but each time, for no apparent reason, there was nothing. The penny dropped when police realised the gang needed the right tide to avoid getting stuck in the mud.
It was a very big breakthrough, excellent for me to find out that the tide was in a 2-week rota, because then, of course, I could plan around those days as being probable times for the robbery.
At the end of October, this was the gang. Robert Adams had been brought in, a man with a record of attempted murder. He would wield the sledgehammer that smashed through to the diamonds. Ray Betson in charge, Bill Cockram to use the nail gun, radios and scanners Aldo Cherokee, and Terry Millman for the getaway van. There was at least one other person in on the plan, a shadowy figure the gang name as Tony. All we know for sure is that he drove a white van on the day of the raid. One vital job was vacant. The original boatman had left, but Bill Cockram knew a charter boat skipper who he says owed him £1,300. On Saturday afternoon, the 4th of November, he went down to Brighton Marina to call the debt in.
Sat down, was having a coffee. He just came out and asked me, he said, oh, have you got that money? And I said, well, no, I haven't got it. And he said, well, oh, what, look, you know, it's put me in a bit of a situation. And then he just turned and said to me, look, can you do a favour for me? And I said, well, what? He said, well, look, can you drive a boat? He said, for 10, 15 minutes. I said, speedboat. And I said, well, probably. I said, I haven't driven one before, so it's not